everyone, and welcome back to Speedrunners and Coffee, the show where we find out about some of your favorite speedrunners. Today, I have Alice with me at Alice at Wonderland Games. Alice Madness on SRC, who's been a speedrunner since 2019, starting with Bioshock, going all the way to Sly Cooper, Corpse Party, a lot of Galgun, some Super Mario, as well as some Pajama Sam and Freddy Fish games as well. Welcome, Alice. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm good. Very good indeed. Just spent 8 hours speedrunning a game that I didn't even get a run in. So, that's how that
Oh,
goes. But we're not
yeah.
here. But we're not here to talk about my speedrunning escapades. We're here to talk about yours. So, what got you into speedrunning?
Funnily enough, it was actually the Mario community. I found comfort in Mario community stuff, and then I found out it was Ryucar was running Invictus at GDQ. So I saw Invictus at GDQ because I really wanted to support Ryucar, and then I watched more of the GDQ stuff, and I was like, hey, this looks really fun. So I kind of went from there in what game, if any, should I speedrun? And I thought of the games that impacted me in my childhood. And obviously, Bioshock wasn't, when I was that little. I was in high school, but still, childhood enough. It was really big for me when I was in high school, and a lot of my friends really enjoyed it together. And I knew a lot about the game already, so I was like, this shouldn't be too hard for me to pick up as a speedrun, and I think I could play it several thousand times and not get crazy. So that's what I decided to go with, was Bioshock, and that's how I started.
Very nice. What GDQ was that run?
I don't remember. I mean, it should have been, I want to say it was SGDQ of 2019, something around
Okay.
there.
And obviously, you mentioned that BioShock was your first speed run and that you picked it because you had played it a lot and it meant a lot to you. But was there any other games you were considering at the time as a possible first pick?
Sly was actually the other one I was considering, which we see how that ends up. That's been my main game for forever now.
Very true. Did you have any initial goals when you started running BioShock?
Initially, so in order to better stand speedrunning, I feel like a lot of people drive themselves crazy trying to compete with the top times right off the bat. And I was proud of myself for recognizing that it's way healthier to compete with yourself and your own time and just focus on that. But what happened was it after I was running BioShock on console because I had been a console gamer for most of my life and I never really had a good PC until very recently. And the console records for BioShock, after about 60, 70 runs, I realized that I was already in top 5 and I was like, wait a second, we could actually go for record on this. So originally, when I was learning, I was just kind of having fun with it, doing my best, and seeing how low I could get my time. And then once I realized that I was actually within ballpark range for shooting for world record, I decided to go for it. And I'm extra proud of this. I actually found a new skip on console that made it much more comparable to PC times. And I got world record with a new skip that I found, and I published it so that other people who are using console could do that.
Nice. And which console was that?
I was running on PS4 at the times because it was fastest load times for console.
Very nice. What do you look for in a game when it comes to a game you want to speedrun? I know you mentioned that games that mean a lot to you in your childhood and whatnot, but is there anything like for like newer games or anything?
Yeah. The biggest thing is if it was sentimental to me as a kid, I know that I'll be able to play it 100 to 1,000 times and not get tired of it. But in newer games, that is what I'm looking for, is the ability to play it like 1,000 times and not get tired of it, because it does just take that level of repetition and improving like over the course of run by run to really get good at any kind of speed run. So I'm looking for things that I can just play 1,000 times and be fine with it. I do look for a couple other things. I tend to not like my runs to be any longer than around 2 hours. I tend to consider myself a shorter to like medium styled speedrun. So while I love a lot of JRPGs, they tend to be ruled out just because they're such long runs, and that level of optimization over hours kind of grinds on me. And then the
Mm-hmm.
other Well, two more things I think I look for. The movement actually has to feel good. That is one. If I feel like I'm fighting the game the entire time I'm speedrunning, then I'm not going to enjoy speedrunning it. And then the final one is that I want the speedrun to actually show off the game and not just random out of bounds space and like nothingness. Because, for instance, Alice Madness Returns, I almost speedrun that, but the optimal route for any percent goes out of bounds so hard that you hardly see the game, and that kind of turned me off for the speedrun. So I do like the actual speedrun to show off the game itself as much as possible, or at least the essence of the game, and not just out of bounds space. And those are the kind of things that I look for to come together for a good speedrun for me.
Very fair. Now, you've mentioned again, and I know I keep bringing this up, and I'm sorry, everybody, but a lot of the games you considered early on for speedrunning were games that were sentimental to you. But is there a game that you love but could never run?
I think we were actually talking about this on my stream the other day, but I don't think that I could ever run SM64 because I love it and it's a very good speedrun objectively, but I can't deal with the controls. They just don't feel correct to me. In particular, the camera. I feel like I'm fighting the camera the entire time and I just can't deal with it in a speedrun setting.
That is fair. Uh, it is quite the intense speed run. That's actually a game that I started with too. And illegal speed runs aside, it's a tough game. Especially when I'm going against how I used to play it as well. It was just like, yeah, this doesn't feel right, and also, but yeah, so I can completely understand that. So SM64 is not one that's
Yeah.
again understandable for sure. So what would you say would be your proudest moment as a runner?
Oh, that's hard. I have so many. I will say one of my proudest moments definitely was the first world record on BioShock. I was really, really proud of that. I was just so excited for actually grabbing a record after putting in work on the game that I loved. Another really major contender though, which is probably going to take the top spot, is the very first Sly Cooper coinless 100% run, because it was just thought that it was not possible for so long, and me and my chat and a bunch of other runners all decided, but what if it was? So we took like a week trying to find ways around all of the spots with coins and routing and having to come up with entirely new, not only routes, but new tricks and movement tech. There's movement tech that was found specifically for Coindo that is now used in other categories because it was necessary for Coindo. It's hilarious. But it all came together in one 12-hour and 50-minute run that finally pieced together every percentage of the game without any coins.
That's impressive. And
Yeah,
considering
I
you just did this at a hot fix, and it was less. I think it was less than 3 hours total.
yep.
I think.
Mhm. Yeah.
So especially when you look at it, how it took first time over 12 hours. Now you've got it down to three. That's kind of insane.
Yeah, I'm very proud of that, and I've had a few people try to snipe that record from me over time because Sly is a very competitive game, but I get it back every time because I am very dedicated on holding that one.
Very nice. And to contrast that question, what would you consider your lowest moment to be, or lowest moments if you have multiple?
Um, that's hard. I tend to try to get lower moments out of my head as fast as possible and move on. So I try not to let them stick around with me for very long. So I'm not sure. A lot of my lower moments are probably getting stuck in one game and getting a bad mental and not being able to PB because of like a bad mental space. The best way that I tend to get around that is to run a sillier game instead. Um, in particular, you noticed that I ran Mario Odyssey. That I ran only one category, and that was nipple percent, because um, it's called nipple percent, and of course I have to run it. The category itself is just take Mario's shirt off as fast as possible, and after hearing that category, I don't understand why anyone would not want to run that. So that's what I tend to get out of my lower points with, is with sillier speedruns that are just fun to get me up to like oh yeah, speedrunning is supposed to be fun and getting back into the mental of it.
Completely fair. And I give you props for that.
Thank you.
Do you have any speedrun influences?
Influences. Yeah, the number one is probably Small Ant, to be honest. Um, I have a funny little story about Small Ant in that I stole pencil sharpening speedruns from him. And I had a lot of fun with that. One of my first ever videos that I posted on YouTube was my pencil sharpening speedrun, and it drove me insane. I still hope to go back and optimize that one day, but I very blatantly stole that from him, and content creators influence each other, so it's not like stealing it from him is the worst thing. However, I ran Putt Putt very early on. Putt Putt Saves the Zoo in particular. And Small Ant decides to run Putt Putt Saves the Zoo after I stole the pencil sharpening stuff from him. And 99.99% he's never seen my channel. However, a little sliver of me likes to believe that like he saw someone who did the speed run or for the pencil sharpening and decided to also do a silly speed run off their channel. I also am very briefly in Small Ant's video on Putt Putt because I was already like on the leaderboard for it when he was learning it, which I think is really funny. But that's one of my biggest influences is I just really like Small Ant. So I try to do a little bit of variety speedruns as he's been doing and just silly stuff and try to keep it light as much as possible. In general, a lot of runners in like every community serve an influence to me, especially when I join a new community. I'm like, dang, these people have been running this game for how long and love this game and have put so much time into it. So I think a lot of individual runners like Neon, Tame Neon was one for me on Sly that was just a huge influence for me because not only was he amazing at the game, he was very sweet and very willing to help teach me the game. And I find those kinds of people in several different games that are like just in love with the game and very willing to teach it. And those people always serve as a major influence to keep the run up and keep the mental up and keep grinding away at it, which is always really nice.
Very nice. What is your opinion on IGT versus RTA?
I am a big proponent of removing load times. Um, so that is one major reason that I think I tend to prefer in-game time. However, as we've been talking about, it is possible to manipulate in-game time in some ways in some games. So that's not always the best measure of legitimate skill. I think ideally the best way that you can run any game is with probably real time but loads removed. And luckily, there are some games like Corpse Party, for instance, that has an auto splitter with a load remover built into it. So you don't have to worry about removing the loads yourselves, and the timing is always accurate. And I really like that style of timing. However, especially for console games, that's not always an option. So sometimes RTA is just the better way to go when in game time is able to be influenced, but load times are always something that should be considered for a game. So if it's not able to be influenced, I think in-game time makes the most sense.
Very fair. Is there a game that you regret running or a game that you wish you had continued to learn?
Ooh, that is a question. I don't regret running any game because every game is an experience. However, very recently, The Grinch for PS1 drove me insane because I ran it for Christmas and I ran it for a 6-hour challenge. And oh my god, the movement and controls, please. The Grinch for PS1, what were you doing? Um, so I don't regret that. However, that was that was a day. That was a stream. Let me tell you. Is there a game that I wish I ran more? Jack 1 probably is the number one thing. Jack and Daxter the Precursor Legacy. It's a really good game. It has a lot of really fun movement tech. The community for it is really good, and I feel like I put it down too early, so I really want to honestly get back to it soon. I've been trying to de-rust for no LTS so I can get a better run on the leaderboard hopefully soon here.
Very nice. Any games you're currently playing online, offline, casually, speed running?
Um, Gosh, my current focus has been I'm trying to prepare for Frost Fatales for Sly, so I'm trying to optimize all keys, which has been fun. I'm really enjoying getting back into all keys because Sly is just a really good speed game in general. I've been doing the new Pokemon Scarlet Violet. I've been really enjoying the VGC scene for it, so like competitive doubles has been super fun for me. I've never touched a competitive Pokemon before, and I didn't realize how much fun it was. I have considered speedrunning honestly, Pokemon Scarlet or Violet because they are getting the time already very down. But I also would, if I was going to speedrun any Pokemon, it'd probably be BDSP because the run for it is like several minutes long and it's incredibly broken. And I can't believe that a Pokemon game this modern can be broken that hard that it can be completed in a few minutes. So I think that'd be a fun meme run to do at some point. Other than that, I am seriously considering picking up Rift Apart. I actually got the means to play it very recently. And by very recently, I literally mean like 4 hours ago. So I hope to pick up Rift Apart casually soon, and then I might start speedrunning that because I do love the Ratchet and Clank series, and that was another huge influence on me as a kid. Rack 1 has scary movement, and I do still plan on running Rack Run, and it sounds fun, but Ratchet and Clank 1 has scary movement, so I've been a little hesitant to pick that one up, but Rift Apart sounds like a very fun place to try to dip my toes into the Ratchet and Clank speedrunning scene.
Nice. Also GG's on getting a PS5.
Thank
They
you.
are they are a bit coming back into public availability, but they are kind of expansive.
Yeah,
Uh,
I actually had a friend manage to snag me one. I appreciate it immensely, and he didn't pay like the full thing for me, but he was so generous that he bought it up front for me and said pay me back when you can when his store like stocked them, which is like just the sweetest thing. I really appreciate that.
Aw, that's very nice.
Yeah.
Also, speaking about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, since you also talked about your time constraints, luckily there's at least three categories that are pretty short in comparison because there is Victory Road, Path of Legends, and I forget what the Star base one is.
Yeah,
Starfall, I think.
Starfall. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are all their own categories as well in that game. So even if you
Yeah,
didn't want to do like a full game, you could do like one of those. Although I'm sure that
yeah.
the game is going to become more and more broken as we go along and maybe get even shorter. At least we can
Um,
hope.
I hope so. I am personally a big fan of accidentally picking up speedrun tech and using it in your casual playthrough, so I was backwards long jumping all over the place to get places I wasn't supposed to be during my casual playthrough.
I think we all did that. Shoutouts to
Yep.
Super Mario 64 tech being inside Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so is there a skip you wish was in a game you ran?
World 3 skip.
Which game is that for?
That is Sly 1. Every world is possible to be skipped except for the most RNG heavy world because of course that's how it managed to shake out in any percent that we have to play entirely the most RNG heavy world in the game. I don't know how we haven't managed to skip the one world that would benefit the most in a speedrun setting from being skipped, but we need to figure out how.
That's completely fair. Do you have any event rituals?
Is be really nervous an answer?
It could be, though I don't think that's I don't think that's something you control. I could be
uh,
wrong.
um, for events, I tend to do what I'm sure a lot of y'all would do and just practice the things that I feel like would worry me during an event or whatever, just repeatedly into the dust. Including when I'm on and like ready beforehand an event and I'm like sitting in the green room or whatever, I'm still just practicing constantly because it keeps my mind occupied doing something. It gets my hands warmed up. It's the best way to prepare for an event in my mind is just to keep playing the game because Honestly, you're there to show off the game itself and to have fun with everyone there. So if you're warmed up and you're familiar with the game, then it's gonna be a fun time.
Totally fair. And given that this is a show called Speedrunners and Coffee, there has to be some coffee questions. Or in
Oh,
this
heck
case,
yeah.
a specific coffee question. What is your
Okay.
favorite coffee?
So speedrunners and coffee viewers don't hate me, but I will kind of drink anything. I tend to prefer the more dressed up ones, a little more sugary, like pumpkin spice. I really like pumpkin, so like a pumpkin spice latte is great, or like a peppermint mocha, anything along those lines. But I will drink any coffee that is handed to me. So I'll drink like black, dark roast, light roast, basically anything along those lines. I'm not particularly picky or anything, so I will basically drink anything that's handed to me. I just like caffeine.
Perfectly fair. I mean, I'll drink almost anything. I can't do pumpkin spice. I don't like it, and I try to
Oh,
stick away from peppermint because I'm not a huge fan of mint.
fair.
Funny enough, but like my favorite coffee drink right now is a Coke coffee.
Huh.
So what it is it's Coke and coffee together. They come in tall cans, but they're only 355 milliliter cans. And they come in dark roast, vanilla, and caramel. I've never seen the caramel. Shoutouts to Zokubun for this, by the way. The vanilla one just tastes like a vanilla Coke, but the dark roast actually tastes like a coffee and a Coke together, and
Okay.
it's delicious. It's essentially half a can of Coke mixed in with coffee because it has the same calorie count as half a can of Coke.
Okay.
So it's like, yes. The only problem is they are expensive as hell as they cost
Oh,
$4 a can. So it's like, no thank you. I mean, I'll do it sometimes, but it's like $4 a can is like hot damn.
yeah. Yeah.
Just no good. Um Another non-speedrunning related question. If you could create a game from an entirely different genre and add it to your favorite series, what genre of game would you add?
Oh, what a good question. Let's see. I run a lot of platformers. So my thought is because I already run a lot of platformers, I shouldn't add another platformer. That would be silly. Um, oh, got it. Dating sim.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are you adding it to?
It's a good question. Anything? I think dating sims are like fun but underrepresented. In particular, if I'm allowed to have modifiers on my answer, a sapphic dating sim. But I think it would be fun for basically any game I play because I think it'd just be a silly good time, especially because dating sims tend to just be ridiculous scenarios set up just for the meme. So
Fair enough. Um,
I
Always
if
interesting.
have you ever played Dream Daddy?
No, I have not played Dream Daddy. I'm not
Okay,
going
first
to
of
lie. I've
all,
never played it. I've never played a dating sim.
I recommend playing Dream Daddy because it is beautiful. However, I want Dream Daddy, but for like every game I play.
Okay. Sounds interesting. I mean, although to be fair, I have technically played dating sims because, like, games like Persona and stuff have like dating
Yeah,
sim ish things. So if those count, then yes. But dating sim specific, no.
yeah, that's fair. I have people who talk to me like my only problem with Persona is the like school life aspect, and I'm like, that's the best part.
Right? Of course, that's a crazy speed run. As Persona 5 is about a 14-hour speed run.
I actually know the first 3 hours of that speedrun because I love Persona 5 and I tried to pick it up. And then after learning 3 hours worth of material and still only being like a third of the way through, I was like, I can't. I'm sorry, y'all. No.
It's also a shame that they only allowed hard mode.
Yeah.
Boo. And
Yeah.
even if you want to do easy, you have to do New Game Plus for Persona 5 specifically, not even Persona 5 Royale. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, sadness. But yeah, that's definitely a long run, and as somebody who does long runs, I'm just like, oh god, I don't even know if I could manage that.
Yeah, you wake up, get on stream, your entire day is just a Persona 5 run, and then if it dies towards the end, what do you do? Like,
Or if it dies towards the middle, what do you do? Like,
yeah, like, do
you
you
know, if
do 1.5 runs in a day, or do you decide to sleep? Like,
yeah, it's it's a rough choice. So where do you see yourself in 5 years speedrun wise?
Um, honestly, I kind of like the direction I'm moving. I'd love to hit partner. I'd love to have actually run up on the main GDQ stage at least once by that point, if not more, hopefully. I'd like to start running like at least once a year because that sounds fun. But yeah, I kind of like the direction we're going. Just see what games I like, what games are popular, maybe go back to some of my like childhood nostalgia picks and just try my best to get the speedrun sweep for them. That's one that like I'm really, for instance, proud of in Corpse Party is I love seeing my name next to all of the like gold medals on all of the categories for Corpse Party 1. And it makes me happy to see that just a game that I love and I have like claimed that game like for speedrun wise, and I want to keep doing that because it's one of my favorite ways to show a game that I like really love it. And because I love being able to show a game that I really love it through a speedrun, I'm just gonna keep doing that.
Very nice. Is there any game you're looking forward to running in the near future, be it a game you haven't tried yet or a game that's not even out yet?
Gosh, that is a very good question. Rift Apart's probably the closest one that I haven't even tried yet that I feel like I'll almost definitely end up picking up as a speedrun. But I really want to pick up a lot of the Ratchet and Clank series, and that will finally fill up my like the original PS2 3D platformer genre of like Sly Cooper, Jack and Daxter, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, Ratchet and Clank, like all of the ones that were released around the same time. Ratchet and Clank's the final one that I haven't really picked up, so that would be another major one is going back to Rack 1, if not Ripped Apart. Two other games that I do honestly really want to pick up are Celeste, because Celeste, and Breath of the Wild, hopefully before Breath of the Wild 2 comes out.
You mean Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah.
I mean, Celeste, as we're talking, is currently on sale. So if you haven't picked it up yet
I've
now.
I've already played through the whole thing. I've not done so much as like a golden berry every section, but I
Ah,
have completed the whole yeah.
okay. I wasn't sure if you had picked it up yet or not, and I was just gonna be like, "Hey, it's on sale through the
Yeah.
Steams." But
I love Celeste. It's so good.
I've never played it.
Oh god,
I
that's a travesty. Fix that immediately.
I don't own it.
Well, I heard that there was a sale right now, so if you wanted to pick it up.
Okay, touche. Touche. I didn't even realize that the game is Canadian as well. Like, there's a bunch of Canadian
Yeah.
stuff all over it, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Um, yeah, I've never played Celeste. I've only just started watching it recently, as there's another runner that I've just met that is very much a Celeste runner, and she's
Yeah.
fantastic at it. And it's just like, oh, okay, I see what this game is. It's one of these platformers that are hard as balls. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. Luckily though, Celeste has a couple major things going for it as far as a speedrun. It is very generous with checkpoints, which is really nice, so you can try each section repeatedly and not have to worry about losing a ton of progress. It has a ton of little invisible things that make it easier on the player. Like, there's a specific word that speedrunners use, but if you just barely miss a platform, it'll pop you up like it has forgiveness for just barely missing jumps, or if you just barely miss a grab, it'll like pop you up for it, those kinds of things. It does try to be generally forgiving despite being very difficult.
Hmm.
And then the final thing, as far as learning it as a speedrun, is that every chapter is self-contained. So you can do chapter runs and just focus on a single chapter in a day and keep doing that one until you get comfortable with it and then move on to the next one, which is a really helpful way to learn how to speedrun the entire game.
True. Speaking of chapter runs, though, when are you going to run all of Sly 2?
That is like the number one pressing question for my community, I swear. I should pick it up soon. I am kind of disappointed in myself because that was actually one of my stream goals for 2022. When on like January 1st, I set stream goals at the beginning of this year, and I only got 3 out of the 8 chapters completed on Sly 2, so that doesn't bode well for that progress, but honestly, I want to try to step up learning it as hard as possible. So what I may start doing is I may fast forward to doing at least 1 chapter a month starting in January. So I will be running full game by like summer. That's the hope.
Very fair. Yes, you are quite the prolific Sly runner, yet no full game Sly 2 or Sly 3 or Sly 4. I have no idea
Yeah,
if you have any interest in 4.
I'm not touching 4, but I would love to run Sly 3.
Any particular
I
reason why you wouldn't touch 4?
I have a grudge against 4. I don't like it. I feel like they moved back, like they doubled back on a lot of the story content. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't like retconning story content on a game that was already supposed to be finished with 3, and then it was kind of nice in a way that we were like, oh, we're getting extra story content, but no, they rewrote some of the original 3 in order to fit 4, and that made me sad.
Mm-hmm.
They also changed the physics engine, which the physics engine had been the same for 1 through 3, and they just altered it heavily so it feels like a different game, which is also tragic to me.
Plus, I believe it wasn't done by Sucker Punch, was it?
It wasn't. It was done by Sanzaru.
Yeah, that was kind of my See, the one great thing about Ratchet and Clank is the fact that it's always been Insomniac. Insomniac has been there
Yeah,
since day one to the end. Sucker Punch
yeah,
hasn't touched Sly since 3. Jack and Daxter, Naughty Dog didn't touch that since Jack Racing, I think.
yeah,
And that's kind of the unfortunate thing. And I know that both those studios have gone on to do other things, but so did Insomniac, yet Insomniac still takes care of its baby, whereas it feels like
yeah.
the other two were just like, do whatever you want with it, we don't care.
Yeah, it is tragic. Everyone is like, oh, if we get a Sly 5, maybe Sucker Punch will do it. And Sucker Punch has gone on record saying they're done with the Sly series and are never coming back for it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing with Jack and Daxter with Naughty Dog. Although I feel like those two, like Jack and Daxter and Sly, suffer the same fate as Crash and Spyro did, because I think after both the original trilogies for those, Insomniac and Naughty Dog didn't do another Sly or Bandicoot and Spyro game, and look how those games turned out, right? So
Yep.
it's kind of unfortunate, but I'm glad that, at least one of the 3 PlayStation mascots is still handled somewhat with respect,
Right.
because it's really unfortunate because I don't think we're getting another Jack and Daxter game, and I don't think
Yeah.
there's gonna be a Sly 5. I was surprised there was a Sly 4, but I guess the Sly
Yeah.
Cooper collection did good enough because they did do trilogy versions of all 3 of them on
Yep.
PS3, and it was very sad.
Yeah.
Alice, where can people find you if they
Oh my
want to see
gosh.
you?
The 2 main social media that I keep up with constantly is my Twitch, so twitch.tv/Alice@WonderlandGames. And then the other one is my Discord. The Discord, you can find the link on my Twitch, but that's the easiest place to find it. If you want to contact me otherwise, Twitter is the most viable option until it implodes. Which would be at AliceA7Games. And then if you want past recorded content, which I've always been more into current live content. I really enjoy interacting with my chat and doing things live as much as possible. But if you want like past speedruns and archive content, you can check out my YouTube, which is Wonderland Games.
Very nice. And I'd like to thank you for coming on to the show. It's been lovely chatting with you
Yeah,
about
thank you for having
how
me.
how you got into speedrunning and everything, and thank you so much. And
Yeah.
best of luck coming up in February when you're on Frost Fatales for
Thank
Sly
you.
and Toho. Well,
Yeah.
Toho's. That one's gonna
Woo!
be a good time. Thank you
Yeah,
so
will
much,
be. I'm excited.
everybody, and we will see you next time.
Bye.